Question 9.
Question 9. An ethical question. I like it. Could the proposers please present themselves to the stage? Forgive us, we're flipping a coin to see who gets to go first.
It should be yes and no because it's a debate. It should be yes and no because it's a debate.
Yes, then no.
Yeah.
It's not very formal, isn't it?
It is very formal. That's good.
It's a serious issue.
It is a serious issue. Okay, who's yes? Excellent. 2 minutes. After you introduce yourself, good luck.
Okay, I'm Kirsty Hay. The world's second biggest brewer, SABMiller, uses a complex system of tax havens to siphon money out of developing countries. It owns over 200 brands, including Grolsch, Peroni and Castle & Miller, and makes profits of over £2 billion a year. Yet despite this, they avoid paying over £20 million in Africa and India alone of tax. And this is enough money to educate 250,000 children, according to ActionAid. Therefore, a ban from a union like Edinburgh will really make them sit up and listen. The company and its subsidiaries siphon money into tax havens in Europe where tax rates are much lower. This is depriving these developing countries of vast amounts of income and is stopping them from being able to fully develop themselves. These countries lose 3 times as much from companies not paying tax than they gain in aid, so it's a massive blow to them. What's worse is that one woman, Marta, who owns a tiny stall selling beers outside one of these massive breweries, paid more tax than the multi-billion-pound company. SABMiller has paid no income tax, or no corporation tax at all in the past 2 years in Ghana, and this is just frankly not acceptable. Over the past couple of years, the Bollocks to Poverty Society has collected hundreds of signatures from students who agree in condemning that SABMiller's tax practices are very unethical. We also have the support of hundreds of MPs, well, not hundreds, but lots of MPs. Get carried away. We also have the support of lots of MPs who also believe that this is a good campaign to support. So now we want our union to support it too. SABMiller's CEO has even said that paying taxes is one of the best ways to help developing countries, so therefore it's crucial that this should happen. It's a company that says it's committed to helping development and sustainable things, and our union is supposedly ethical. So therefore it's completely unacceptable that we should support such a company with bad tax practices.
So SABMiller or evil? What do we think?
Hello, I'm Niall Quinlan. I'm on the No campaign for this, obviously. I'd like to start by saying USA doesn't pay tax either. Charity, so different reasons, obviously. One thing I say, I'd like to quote one of the figures just uses profits of over $20 billion. USA has an annual turnover of about £6 million, under half of that from alcohol sales. Well, about 1/10 of that is SABMiller products, and that all gets siphoned down through about 6 different organisations before it gets put on USA's shelves. So I really wonder the impact this would have to a company like SABMiller. But one thing I can guarantee is the impact to us as USA would be astronomical. The loss of tens of thousands of pounds of turn time sponsorship, in festival even more so. It would ruin our competitiveness during festival time, as unfortunately, a large amount of the products that we stock, SABMiller sponsor us to stock those products. In effect, SABMiller often pay us more than we pay them. Student choice would be massively reduced due to this boycott. Repercussions for students of the future. If SABMiller was to clean themselves up, it's been seen in the past with companies such as Nestle that boycotts are notoriously slow to be removed from companies once they have done what was requested. And as well as that, I think students are bright enough and politically aware enough to decide on their own whether they individually want to boycott products or not. If people want Sab Miller to clean up their act, they should act personally by not purchasing those products. I don't feel that the views of students that simply win a majority in an election or win a majority in a referendum should be forced upon the rest of the student body if that's not what they choose to do.
Thank you. So the real cat dodger is USA, and a boycott won't make any difference. Do we have any comments and questions out there? Yes.
Okay. You said if Edinburgh bans all their products, they'll sit up and listen. If this company can willingly ignore the Indian government, what could we possibly do to make them sit up and listen?
Is that?
Oh yeah.
Can we direct that at people in a sort of?
Do you agree? Sorry.
Do you agree? Okay. So essentially, if they're going to ignore the Indian government, why would they take note of USA?
Well, it's not necessarily that they ignore these governments. These governments find it sometimes hard to stand up for themselves. They want to attract investment. They want to attract companies to come and work for them. So it's not good for them to put off companies. So they don't want to stop Sab Miller having big breweries in their company because they might employ people and might have jobs. So they're not going to stop that. At the same time, if we as our union can manage to boycott Sab Miller, then this causes a big effect. There's other unions and there's other groups, voluntary poverty societies who we know, and if we can make this happen, then other places can make this happen. Sab Miller, we've been to speak to them as a company, some people went down, and they are quite afraid. They refuse to talk to you or make any statements or say anything. So they do care about, they have a lot of products, obviously, in Edinburgh, so if we can boycott them, it does make a show, and then local pubs and local businesses, and we can talk to them and hopefully make a big difference, and it should be able to make an impact.
Thank you very much. So it's about the domino effect.
I agree. I often wonder the impact that a company like USA could possibly have, and I think we could make more of a difference to companies like Sab Miller, like going down and speaking to them and telling them why we think what they do is wrong and that we want them to change. And I think the only way we can do that is if we have funding to do so. And I think if we risk boycotting Sab Miller and potentially losing an awful lot of income due to not being able to sell product, I think we reduce our ability to do all the things that USA does. It costs money to send people down, it costs money to make campaigns, run them. And I feel that's the best way we can make impact. So I think, yes, Sab Miller definitely can listen to USA, but I just don't think that boycotting their products is the right way to go about it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions out there? Yes, we do. Yeah.
Has it not been shown that investing in ethical companies is just as profitable as investing in non-ethical companies? Surely there's some brewers that we could invest in who would provide just as much money based on that principle.
So are there ethical alternatives?
I'd like to just to reinforce the point, Blue Moon, Carling, Bulmers, Coors Light, Grolsch, Peroni and Strongbow. The list of products that USA currently holds that Sab Miller produce, 3 of those baseline products that form nearly 70% of the bar sales in USA. Changing those products easily is not really an option because you find between baseline products and premium products almost a cost difference of 30 and 40%. So yes, we could still operate profitably, but could we still offer the same service and could we still offer the same prices to students? Students obviously don't have as much cash to spare around, and can we really force them to have to pay more to express political views?
There we go, so is cheap beer more important than ethics? What do we think?
Profit shouldn't be the main aspect of people's life. It shouldn't be what you focus on. There are more important things, frankly. But yes, it definitely has been shown that if you invest in ethical companies, it can be just as worthwhile. We could change the stock, and I'm sure you could still make a profit if that's all we're obsessed about. But yeah, it should be able to work, and that we can boycott. They do have quite a lot of products in Edinburgh, but that just helps with our boycotting and making a stand. The second half of the question does say until they incorporate into their policies, so you never know, we could get these back. Lots of people we've spoken to have said that they don't really care what beer they drink as long as they drink a beer. They'll go to lots of the bars and they generally just drink the cheapest ones. I think Tennent's is still the cheapest beer in our union, I think. So that's generally what people are going to drink. So it's not going to make that much difference. It's not saying that all our drinks are going to have to get a lot more expensive. It's just saying that we need to change it and we should have other kind of respect for other human beings and that we should be an ethical union as we're supposed to be.
So boy from Sam Miller shows a disrespect for human beings. Okay, who's next? I think that you did your hand up first, I think.
Considering the list of beers that you just read out, it's quite clear that Sam Miller has not been putting any of the tax money he's dodged into improving quality. Do you think that actually boycotting Sam Miller could improve this range, improve and better the kinds of beers that we have in our union?
So will the boycott improve the level of beers?
Well, that would be another great outcome. We can complain about that. So definitely, that is another campaign we could fight for. You can write to them and encourage them and say that now that we boycotted them because that is the right thing to do, that therefore they should improve the quality of their beers as well as the quality of their tax practices.
I disagree. Obviously there's products there that are down to personal taste, but I think we kind of have to listen to the masses. Strongbow is the most sold cider in the UK. They produce that. That says something about the quality of the cider. And I think if we change from it, there's not really much out there that gets any better. I personally don't welcome Dutch Gold on any draft tap, and neither do I welcome Blackthorn cider or Devil's Bit. So I think it's not as if we're going to get Magner's Golden Draft in as an alternative. I don't think the quality will improve. I think we've got the best of the worst. And I think the worst of the worst is what's in store if we change.
So there's quite a lot of hands up still. I think we can't use it.
USA is supposedly an ethical organisation, and that means that it's been mandated to invest in ethical companies and ethical products. So surely to knowingly continue to invest in something that is clearly unethical is not okay. How respond? I don't know how to phrase that.
So are you already breaking policy and breaking the rules by investing in them?
USA has an awful lot of policies. USA is a fair trade organisation, but yet there's still a Costa Coffee in King's Buildings, which is obviously that's directly in line with our policy. Whether Sab Miller is unethical or not, it depends on the proof of the practices that they do, because I often find some of these stories that come out is journalistic view given of them. The amount of tax that they evade and so on is, how do people find out these figures is what I'm eager to know. How are we to know that Sab Miller hasn't been given special exemptions, that it's the governments that don't want to make public? Because as we've already heard, sometimes countries have to sell themselves cheap in order to make profit in the future. And we've seen huge amounts of countries, even in the EU, have very, very low corporation tax for a number of years to encourage investment to come in. And then in years to come can really cash in on that initial investment in these companies. And I don't think it's USA's responsibility really to enforce laws that we don't really have the final judgment on or all the facts and figures on.
So it's not USA's responsibility to enforce laws and policies that are already in place?
Yes, I definitely think that I agree with Betty in that by supporting this very unethical company, we are breaking its mandate. I think it's kind of ridiculous to say that USA has lots of policies and we don't comply with them all, because then what's the point of having it as an organisation? And surely, if we have these policies, we should try and uphold them, and if there's others we don't do perfectly either, we should try and do that as well, and not just dismiss them all. And also, ActionAid has spent loads of time and effort in finding out all these figures and ensuring they are all correct, and discovering that they are a very unethical company and that their tax practices are bad. If we take this action, it kind of makes a clear stand to Sab Miller and many other multinational companies that tax avoidance is wrong and that these companies should have to pay their fair share. So yeah, definitely.
One last question. There's a very keen gentleman in the back there who's had his hand up for some time.
Just one question on the fact that you said that they're doing the taxation through tax havens.
if it's not illegal, can we really say that they're doing anything more than any other company would do, try to increase its profits?
So if it's not legal, they're really doing anything wrong?
Yes, you're right, it's not technically illegal, but if you have morals, I would say it's illegal. They're depriving these developing countries of masses of tax which technically owe to them. They pay millions of pounds to offices in places like Switzerland, but then when you go and visit the offices, there's nobody in the offices, they've never been used, they just built a building to send millions of pounds to. I mean, it is completely unethical and unjust. It should be illegal, but that's a different battle, and a much bigger question to get into. Yeah.
I would say, is that not the battle then that we should be fighting? Because I think if we target SABMiller and we make them ethically pay all their taxes, we've won one war against one big company in an ocean of battles and wars to be won. Surely if we spend our time and energy focusing on the countries which enable these companies to operate unethical, we'll definitely have won the entire war very much sooner, because then every company in the world will have to operate ethically rather than the ones that are just slightly bigger or come out in the light. I think there's a lot of companies that operate unethically that get away with it because they're slightly better at it. But I think if we target the root of the problem, we'd solve it all in one go rather than going after companies individually.
Thank you very much. I know a lot of people got their hands up, but we've hit our 15-minute threshold, unfortunately. So if we get a big round of applause for our two professors.